What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, The World of I, who is I, me, Leon, and today I have a special video, or one that I think is special, and also one that's been requested by many of my friends and family members. And today I'll actually be going over in this video my Ancestry DNA results, also giving you some of my thoughts and opinions on my own DNA results, and also just giving you what I pulled from taking a test such as this one. Now, this is not a reaction video. I've actually had these results since like my birthday, which is May 29th. And speaking of my birthday, this was actually bought, this test was actually bought as a birthday gift by a friend of mine, so shout out to her. And the main motivational reason why or how I even got about taking the test is that, one, I love to travel, and I always just wanted to take it so I could find out where my ancestors are from and put that on my bucket list of places that I would love to travel to. And I was actually kind of talking to these ideas to her, and then that's where the motivation came, where she actually bought me the test. And also just pure curiosity, just wanting to know exactly. And I'm not really going to go too much into the how you actually go about getting your results after you purchase the kit. I think Ancestry DNA has a video on YouTube. If I find that video where they go over step by step how to get your results and how to actually take the test, I'll just post that in the description below if I actually find that video. First, going to tell you a little bit about what I know of my own heritage. So first off, my dad is African American or Black American, and my mother is Panamanian. She was actually born in Panama, so I guess that makes me Afro-Latino. I guess that's a correct term for it. I don't really get caught up on those sorts of terminologies. But to start off with my dad's side of the family, of course, go ahead and say it, based on the melanin that radiates from my skin, I already know that slavery played a part in the migration of my ancestors to the United States. Outside of that, I also know that because I had the pleasure of actually meeting and knowing my great-grandmother, who died I think around the time I was like 12 or 13, and I remember her being very light-skinned. And then as I got a little bit older, I found out that she was actually half white, that her father was white, so that makes my great-great-grandfather a white man. And based on what I've heard is that the relationship between her mother and him, that wasn't a romantic relationship. But I know for a fact now that European will definitely be in my DNA makeup. And then also my last name is white, and I know just Googling it, I know the origins of my last name are actually British. To my mom's side of the family, who I have had recently when I went on vacation, where I actually spent 2 weeks in Panama. And for those that don't know where Panama is, it's between Colombia and Costa Rica, also home to the Panama Canal. It's one of the financial capitals of Central America. It's a very beautiful country, but I actually had the pleasure spending 2 weeks there around the time of my birthday, because depending on how long you've been a subscriber or a YouTube friend of mine, you know that my mother passed away last year. So I've been doing a lot of connecting with that side of my family, and I actually got spent a lot of time while I was there with my grandpa. And he told me that he knows that one of his grandmothers was Colombian, and that his people originated from the Bahamas. And to me, he looks very much like Gandhi, same in stature, same skin complexion. And so just that alone kind of makes me think there might be some indigenous population of the natives from Colombia, Panama, and Costa Rica that might be in the mix in his heritage. And then also for my grandmother on my mom's side, there's been a toss-up of where her people come. I've heard Jamaica. I've also heard Trinidad. She was very darker complexion, and definitely more than a few shades darker than I am. And I actually had the pleasure of going to her birthplace in Panama, which is a huge tourist destination for backpackers and surfers, and it's called Bocas del Toro. It's like a cluster of islands off the coast of Panama, and if you get an opportunity to go there, it's very similar to the Caribbean, very similar to the West Indies. I almost felt like I was in Jamaica or someplace when you actually get to go there. Everybody speaks patois. Most people don't really speak Spanish there, even though Panama is a Spanish-speaking country. Now, to go ahead and jump into my results after sharing what I already know about my own heritage. So I'm just go ahead and jump right into it. So I'm 41, and after I go through it, I'll kind of, highlight some of the interesting things or things that caught me off guard. So I'm actually 41% Nigerian, 18% Cameroon and Congo, 10% Great Britain, 9% Ivory Coast and Ghana, 9% Benin and Togo, 5% Native American, and then also they're going to give you these low confidence regions, which is like anything under 4.5% of your DNA makeup. For me, it was 2% Mali, 1% Finland, Northwest Russia, 1% African South Central hunters and gatherers, 1% Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain and Portugal, and then I had less than 1% Scandinavia, which is Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and then I had less than 1% Eastern Europe. Now, to start off with the Nigerian, the 41%, this kind of caught me off guard because I had a first cousin that took this, and he was like 31, 30, or it was like 29% Nigerian. So I was kind of shocked on that I had that much Nigerian in me. And actually, when you click on each region that you're from or your ancestors are from, Ancestry is going to give you a bit of a brief description and brief like history of the region, and they're also going to tell you locals that are from this region how much of their DNA makeup is from their region. And the average Nigerian has 69% of their DNA makeup is from the Nigerian region. So me being at 41%, I thought that was quite a lot, and I think I have a theory to why. In Nigeria, there were basically three main ethnic groups. The two major ones was like the Yoruba, which accounted for 20% of Nigeria, and during the slave trade, many of the Yorubian people were sent to Cuba, Trinidad, and Brazil. So being, as I told you, that my grandmother on my mom's side, many people thought she was either from Jamaica or Trinidad. So after taking this test, I'm leaning more towards Trinidad. And then the next kind of subgroup of people and Nigerian at the time was the Igbo people, and they were sent to Maryland, Virginia, and the Carolinas during slavery. So I think these two ethnic groups of Nigerian played a huge part on why I had such a large amount of Nigerian in me, being that I think my mom came from one ethnic group, her heritage, and my dad came from another ethnic group of heritage of Nigerian people. Cameroon, Congo, no surprise there. And also, I think overall I was like 80% African. The Great Britain, 10% seemed like a good number, knowing that my great-grandfather was white. And actually talking to my grandfather on my dad's side, he's actually aware of where this side of my family resides in North Carolina. And I thought that was kind of interesting to know if I was to knock on the door and be like, hey, I'm your cousin. That would be definitely an interesting story to be told. Something interesting about Ivory Coast and Ghana is that based on their cultural norms, they were huge on oral traditions, and me liking to talk and being social, for me, after taking something like this, I definitely start to realize that you inherit much more than physical features from your ancestors and from your heritage. And also, in Ivory Coast and Ghana, they communicated through drumming. And a little fact about me is I was pretty much a drummer all throughout grade school. And so when I'm in these freestyle sessions, and I've already known that many African tribes communicated through drumming, and actually in middle school participated briefly in an African drum ensemble. And sometimes I would wonder, like, could my ancestors be speaking through me through drumming? And if so, what are they saying? I thought that was just an intro, spiritual concept to think of when I'm drumming. Native American, 5%. Now, when you actually click on each region, they're going to highlight that entire region that you actually, where your DNA makeup is from. And for Native America, it highlights North America, Central America, and South America. And I think this 5% comes from probably my mother's side. As I said, I think my grandfather, her father, definitely probably has some of the native, indigenous lineage somewhere in his heritage, just by looking at him. Because of course, the Incans and the Mayans and all those great civilizations in Central and South America also counts as Native American as well. Let me see. When it came to the low confidence regions, the Northwest Russia, Finland was kind of weird, but yeah, that's probably just came from my great-great-grandfather, probably somewhere in his own heritage. The Iberian Peninsula, that 1%, I'm not really sure if that comes from my dad's side or my mom's side, because based on reading the context of West Africa, that the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal played a role in the colonization of West Africa, and they also played a role in the colonization of many parts of the Caribbean and Central and South America. So I don't really know where that came from. And then an interesting thing about the African South Central hunters and gatherers, and that region is made up of South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and Congo. And this region is known to where the first humans actually came from. So many videos on YouTube of people who have also taken this test, they at least have like 3% of this in them. And I think it's because just the origins of where humans actually derived from. So I've seen where like people who take this test who are very light-skinned or whatnot, and they find out they have more African in them than they do European or vice versa. So definitely, I know DNA makeup is not all based on just what you look like. And then also they told me that my family was part of the North Carolina African American migration, because we all know after slavery was abolished, there was pretty much a huge exodus or a huge migration of African Americans trying to escape racism and Jim Crow and all those things. A huge migration from the South to other parts of the United States. However, based on the research that other family members have done and put the time and effort in, that my family pretty much stayed here in North Carolina, and even up to I actually know where and what part of North Carolina my family were slaves in. So that's a pretty cool, interesting fact. Now that I've got the results out the way, just to kind of share some of my base opinions on what I took from taking a test like this. And first and foremost, realizing exactly where your ancestors came from, you start to realize that you inherit much more than just physical features from them. I think you can inherit certain wisdom, intellect, skill set, certain aptitudes, certain personality traits. When I talk to my grandpa about his father and he describes his personality, I see similarities in my own personality. And also, scientists have also found out that you can actually inherit certain anxieties, fears, and phobias from your heritage as well, from your ancestors. I thought that was pretty interesting. And to think, and then also what I took from this is to realize I definitely stopped looking at myself as like an individual. I'm more of a player on a, I guess you could say, a team, as the baton gets passed from generation to generation, as you inherit not just physical things, but also spiritual and even mental characteristics and personality characteristics from your ancestors. And I think, actually, I know Bishop T.D. Jakes actually spoke about this in one of his interviews, which I thought was very interesting when they asked him where he got his inspiration from. And he said that even though he was sitting in this chair, that the chair was about to break due to the weight of all the ancestors that he carries with him. And so he kind of said that sometimes when he's talking, sometimes his mother could be fighting for the mic, his dad could be fighting for the mic, or any one of his ancestors. So that's an interesting way to look at it, I guess, in a spiritual sense. Also, when you go back and look at your DNA and your ancestors, you can see all the things that they've had to deal with or withstand, or you find out their accomplishments. You also find out, you know, make sure it, well, you can also find out, you know, all the great things that they accomplished. And when you actually understand that, you can make sure that you're still pushing that envelope. Or you might go back and find that your ancestors might not have been the nicest people on this planet, and you can kind of take into responsibility, I guess, to right those wrongs in a sense. Because for me, when I look at civilizations and societies, we're advancing on a technology level. All these things that we're acquiring through technology make life easier for all people. But for me, the main thing is that, I guess, as society, that we're progressing morally and ethically as well. If we're still making mistakes that happened hundreds of years ago in 2018, I think to me that's not really any sort of progression if we're not progressing ethically and morally as well. And then also for me personally, you know, if I know that my ancestors had to go through a grave ordeal and I'm starting to go through bad experience in my own life, I can pretty much draw on that strength to help me overcome those things. You know, if they were able to overcome this, and I should more than definitely be able to overcome this as well. Taking this test, I also realize it can help you get a sense of identity as well, in a sense of culture, or I guess unity within your culture, because through this I've been learning, or I've gotten more interested in West African and Kemetic culture and wisdom and things like that before slavery even happened, which is definitely very interesting stuff they never taught me in school. But overall, yeah, that's pretty much everything I want to touch on in terms of what I took from taking this test. But overall, is taking a test like this important? I mean, I think so. It depends on the person. It depends on how interested you are. I know many people don't care about this, and I know there's many people out there that actually do care. So I mean, it doesn't hurt to take it. It'd definitely be something interesting to find out. But yeah, overall, I thought it was rewarding for me. I love the knowledge that I acquired from taking a test such as this one. So if you like this video, go ahead, like, share, subscribe, and also in the comment section below, tell me what, if you actually somebody that took this test, tell me what you took from it as well, or even share your results if you would like to do that. But again, like I said, like, share, subscribe,